Hey everyone, I am back from my trip to Swindon, England. I had the most amazing time at the XTC Fan Festival. I wanted to make a video about it and kind of show you what I saw while I was there. And yeah, so kick back and enjoy it. It was quite nice to see this sign after traveling many miles to get to Swindon. This is the hotel that I stayed in, the Goddard Arms. No air conditioning on the top floor, and boy, it was sweltering hot in Swindon the whole time. We had karaoke first night that I arrived. You know, that first night in that karaoke, I remember standing against the wall there, looking into a room full of strangers and feeling really out of place. I didn't get up and sing or anything, I just observed. But when I look at this video now, I see the faces of these people and I know their names now, and I'm friends with half of these people, and it's a really cool feeling to go from being complete strangers to actually having some new friends.
Is in a band called Pugwash, which is one of the collaboration people with that is someone you may have heard of called Dave Gregory. So I'd like to welcome Dave Gregory and Thomas Welsh to the stage. Well done.
Hello. My name. Hello. Convention is lovely to see you all. Thank you all for coming. And as you've just heard, it's all for a good cause. So we're happy to be here and just talk a load of rubbish and hopefully find something to entertain you.
Don't worry, Dave. I have it in hand.
Do you have your questions?
It's just if I sit down here, I may never get up.
Yes, actually, don't worry.
Well, I've got like a countdown, right? 3, 2, 1. Well, I'll get the hernia out of the way first, because this is
Longest time we'd had to make a record, so Andy decided, well, look, we've got all these songs, we've got to record them all, but we won't squash them all, squeeze them all onto one disc. We'll make it a double disc. We'll insist Virgin put it out on 2 discs, so that we get, maximum sonority, as it were, from each of these songs, which is what we did. But even with 6 weeks, in 6 weeks, we never really quite got it finished. There was a stuff loose ends. And they probably ended up as B-sides to the 12-inch singles. I don't know how many 12-inch singles.
Tissue Tigers is brilliant.
Yeah, that was
Like, Blame the Weather was on the original.
Yeah.
And Tissue Tigers.
Well, why stop there?
So this is one of the more interesting interactions that I had that week, was my conversation with Hugh Padum. And if you don't know who he is, just Google him and you'll see the artists that he has produced. Besides XTC and Split Enz, he's produced The Police, Kate Bush, David Bowie, Paul McCartney, Phil Collins, Genesis, and it just goes on and on and on and on. Anyway, I had wanted to ask him some questions regarding Kate Bush and David Bowie, because besides XTC, those are 2 other artists that I'm fascinated with. So the first question I asked him was in regards to Kate Bush, the Dreaming album in particular, because he produced that one. And I asked him if Kate Bush came prepared in the studio with all the material, or if she worked through it in the studio. And he said, well, basically she worked on a lot of the material in studio, but he said that he actually had to cut out in the middle of the album because the Police had called upon him to produce their album. So he didn't get to finish it with her. He only did part of the album, but he did say that he enjoyed working with her on Peter Gabriel's album because she sang back up on Games Without Frontiers, and that's an album that I absolutely love, and had no idea that Hugh Padum produced that one. So he said she was absolutely lovely to work with. And the other question that I asked him was in regards to David Bowie's album Tonight, which has Blue Jean on it and Loving the Alien. And I asked him what it was like working with David Bowie on that album, and he kind of looked down for a second, hesitated, and then looked back at me and he said, well, David Bowie didn't really want to work on that album because he had just come off of doing Let's Dance, which was highly successful, and had done a tour, and he was pretty much burned out at that point, but the record company insisted that he do another album. So he really wasn't into it, and he ended up calling his buddy Iggy Pop to come down and help him write lyrics. And he said basically that outside of the studio, David Bowie was absolutely lovely to hang around and to be, in his presence. And he was a very funny guy, very smart guy, and he was just very personable outside of the studio. But during the session, he said not so much, because he was kind of like tormented having to do this album. So I found that very fascinating that I got that little inside information from Hugh. So I was very, very grateful. And then they basically, I got kicked out of line at that point because I was apparently taking too long to talk to him. But yeah, that was really cool. Another highlight for me was meeting this gentleman. This is Stephen Warren, and Steve has been there from the very beginning. He was a DJ back in the day, and Andy was his roadie. And I even saw a picture of Andy with long hair and these velvet trousers with bell bottoms, and it was amazing to see how far back he went with this band, and he had been there as a supporter and help them in their success. I believe, as the story goes, if I'm not mistaken, that Steve was the one to kind of coax Colin to write music, because at that time Andy was writing all the music, and he said, hey, you better think about writing some music if you want to make money with publishing. So that's kind of how Colin got his start. And the rest is history. Just think about the songs that Colin has written. I mean, what an incredible collection of songs. And Steve had on his phone all of these recordings, folders and folders of recordings from the board, because Steve used to mix the band. And it just went on and on and on. And then he had folders of videos of the band, of them in the studio and just hanging out and all kinds of stuff. And I'll tell you, for any XTC fan, you can't help but drool. And I just really appreciate Steve, because he was so generous in sharing that with all of us, and even invited us to come out to his pad and hang out and experience all this stuff that he had. So what an incredibly generous man. I'm definitely going to look him up when I get back to Swindon and spend some time at his place hanging out with him and just absorbing all that he has that is of XTC. So they had an auction, and the first thing up for bid was Andy's waistcoat, which you see that I'm holding in my left hand. That's the plaid waistcoat there that Andy Partridge wore. And they gave me a magazine showing Andy wearing it. There it is right there. And also that was given to Martin Newell, and I'm a fan of Martin Newell also. He wore it for The Greatest Living Englishman, so you can see it there. So the other item up for bid was Dave Gregory's shirt that he wore on the David Letterman show when they did King for a Day. And so that was absolutely amazing that I won those two things. Well, needless to say, I had the time of my life, and as you can see, hanging in the back here, this is the waistcoat, Andy's waistcoat, and this is Dave's shirt that I had mentioned before, and I have that prominently hanging back there. But amazing time. I can't wait to get back to England, and I hope you enjoyed this. Leave a comment. All right, catch you next time.